Screw your freedom.
And there it is. Screw your freedom, right? Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is the state of the SHTF show. That's right, folks. I'm not part of the Trump administration. No, I'm part of the Patriot administration, just like you guys. Patriotic, tax-paying, law-obeying, decent human beings being shit on constantly left and right. Got a little technical difficulty going today. It seems like, as Uman was telling me before the show here, it's always something. It's always something. Anyways, I'm going to make do with what I've got, and I want to cover the potential World War III that's developing over in, well, by Iran, in the Mediterranean, etc. So first, let's start off with, is the United States of America going to attack Iran? Well, I believe the lady's name is Susie Wiles. Isn't she the chief of staff for Trump, Mr. Uman? I think it is Susie Wiles. Anyways, she says it should be a relatively quick and easy war for the United States to win. Is Susie Wiles an experienced military leader, general? Did she attend West Point or Annapolis war colleges? Did she, who the fuck is she? Apart from being a dual citizenship Israeli, helping the president run the United States of America. We certainly seem to have an awful lot of that. Now, having said that, we have sailors and Marines and also Air Force moving into the area. I'm sure the Army is there as well. But Iran is not sitting back idly. And neither are Iran's allies, China and Russia, who have been participating in war exercises. But Iran is also buying high tech. Well, how can Iran buy high tech? Missiles, high tech bombs, guns, weapons, systems. Well, because they have a lot of oil. Yes, they do. All right. Hey, Uman, I just got control of my notepad again. All right. So Iran, they're buying hypersonic missiles. Yes, they are. They're buying hypersonic missiles. Why would they do that? Well, because the hypersonic missiles they're buying are specifically created for taking out naval vessels. They're buying these Chinese CM-302 supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles. And they will be, if everything gets violent, a game changer. A game changer big time, my friends. Is that what we want to see? Literally, is that what we want to fucking see out there? Well, it's not what I want to see, but President Trump is letting us all know that he is the one who is in charge. You bet President Trump is thinking about Iran. State of the Union, state of the SHTF. He says, I am the one that makes the decision. And what he's talking about is attacking Iran. Well, there's another development out there. There was a president once. He was never elected president, but he was the president. And you're thinking, is this about Obama? No, not that non-president. This guy actually was a president. He succeeded President Nixon when he resigned. Gerald Ford, President Gerald Ford stepped into office. Anyways, there's a United States carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, that is supposed to be heading to the conflict zone. Well, there's a problem with the USS Gerald Ford, my friends. Join the Navy. Woo! We can put that back up there because I'm going to tell a little story about the USS Gerald Ford and that picture. I have seen videos with everywhere from 12 inches, right? 12 inches to 18 inches of sewage sloshing around the ship. And sailors, the videos I've seen of sailors walking in it. This is our Navy. This is the United States Navy right here, huh? The world's most powerful Navy Thank you, Ooh Man. I like that one. That's a good look there. So now I can point at it and actually see it. Yeah. The government claim is that the United States Navy, especially the USS Gerald Ford, it just has always had bad plumbing. The plumbing's a little undersized. Well, there's a different story out there that's not coming. It's not coming from the government. It's coming from patriots. And it's coming from people in the military claiming that sailors are completely objecting to the mission. They don't want to be anywhere near Israel or Iran. And so the ship is now having to turn around and it's being sent back to Greece to get this problem fixed. The claim is that sailors are stuffing socks, T-shirts, and articles of clothing down the toilets to clog them up, to cause this problem that we're seeing right here. Consequently, they're not going down there. So why would they do that? Why would sailors basically do a silent mutiny? Why would they do that? Well, back in 1967, Israel bombed and killed sailors on the USS Liberty. It's a massacre. They strafed it. They bombed it. They shot it up. They set it on fire. They killed dozens and dozens of U.S. sailors. And Israel has never accepted responsibility. They've made excuses, claimed it didn't happen, lied about it, said, oh, we got confused. It was just an accident. Doesn't fucking matter. These sailors know they're being sent to a war zone to fight a war for Israel, since Israel controls El Presidente. But, it just has bad plumbing. So which is it? I don't know. What is true? What I do know is that the United States Navy has aircraft carriers that are literal floating cities. They are the most incredible ships. All U.S. naval vessels, incredible. No expense is spared. So why now would we have backing up sewers? That regularly happens, right? The U.S. Navy has never fixed this undersized plumbing issue that always happens. And when it comes to the U.S. naval vessels, which are used to project American military power around the world, that's what the whole point of the U.S. Navy is to project power, to give the U.S. dollar credibility and strength in protecting international commerce, especially oil. But now we're not going to fix sewer pipes because, it's just kind of expensive. Money is never a problem for the government to spend, especially when it keeps American government in power. So why now are we having these problems right here? Why now? Someone explain it. Because the most credible explanation is it looks kind of intentional, especially at this time. Now, nobody on the ship is going to admit it because you'll get your ass court-martialed, maybe even a nice trip to federal prison for doing something like this. What do you guys think? Is Trump going to bomb Iran? Is Iran going to retaliate with anti-ship cruise missiles, hypersonic? Is Russia and China going to engage in the war? Or are they just going to sit back? Is Israel going to attack Iran? Is Israel going to attack the United States? Now, of course, Iran and Israel both claim, well, some people claim for them that they all have Epstein files with Trump and children, and that if Trump doesn't bomb Iran for Israel as their proxy bitch, then they'll release the files with Trump and burn him. But Iran is saying the same thing. You attack us, we're going to release Epstein files with you and little girls in it. Meanwhile, Putin is sitting back and he has made the claim that the parasitic vampires in charge of the rest of the world, and he called them that. He's called them parasites and vampires. Parasites and vampires. He says their time to be in control of the world is coming to an end. And I find that to be a very fascinating statement to make. Do you guys believe Trump is, I mean, I know he's in the Epstein files, but do you guys believe he's actually a pedophile, a child rapist? There was a girl, young girl, in her early teens, who filed a lawsuit, claimed that Trump raped her multiple times. And they got to the court, and she dropped the charges. She walked away. Claims that she and her life were threatened, and so she walked away. Is it true? I don't know. Is it credible? This is all before the Me Too stuff, folks. This is a long time ago, many years ago. Is Trump a good guy? He's not looking like it because he is not arresting anybody. All right, well, here we are. That's the Iran, Epstein, Israel connection that I wanted to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Uman. Appreciate that disgusting look at what our Navy personnel are putting up with. Absolutely awful. Now, U.S. military power. I've got some interesting news for you guys. The United States has been the number one financial supporter of the war against Russia in Ukraine. Well, they've been using or losing support with us, the people. And nations in Europe have now had enough of this shit. The Druzhba 1 station, which is in Kalikino, this is a key hub of the Druzhba oil pipeline. It's in Hungary. And guess what? It has now been blown up, exploded, destroyed, demolished, not by Russia, but by Ukraine. This pipeline accounts for 86%, not 6 or 16 or even 26%. This pipeline is 86% of Hungary's oil consumption. It's 100% of Slovakia's oil consumption, meaning they get Russian oil. Now, in response to being blown up, having their energy taken by Ukraine, this is an act of fucking war. It's an act of terrorism. It's an act of war against Slovakia and against Hungary. So Slovakia says it's going to halt electricity supplies that it sends to Ukraine. It's pretty smart of Ukraine, huh? Blow up a fucking pipeline, and the country that supplies you electricity is going to shut it off. Things are heating up, folks. European nations have had enough of this shit. They've had enough of supporting Ukraine and Israel's proxy war against ethnic Russians and Moscow. And remember, the reason Russia got involved is they're tired of these Ukrainian Nazis, his words, and the fact that ethnic Russians were being murdered by Ukraine's Nazis, who are acting in response, right, to commands and orders from Zelensky. Zelensky is an Israeli, allegedly. He is a Jew, allegedly, and he certainly lives and stands by their belief systems of homosexuality, cross-dressing, transgenderism. Oh, yeah, folks, these are some sick fucking people. They are some sick people. So Slovakia, right, they are not exporting. They're stopping all their emergency electricity that they send to Ukraine. And this is their quote. From today, if Ukraine asks Slovakia to help stabilize its electricity network, it will not receive that assistance. And Ukraine gets 20% of their electricity from Slovakia. But Slovakia gets 100% of their energy, oil, from Russia, and they had that blown up. Right? Incredible. Europeans and their leaders are rejecting this open support of Ukraine and this Zionist Israeli mission to kill ethnic Christian Russians and infiltrate Russia and infiltrate the Russian banking system. Folks, the reason they hate Russia is Russia has not bent the knee nor allowed the bankers, Western bankers, control over their money, or to affect and alter Russia's Christian culture. This is huge, folks. It's huge. Viktor Orban, he's had enough of this shit. I think everyone is basically having enough of this shit. So I now want to, we're going to switch over. And we got some issues going on with Mexico, do we not? Let's start with the fun one. We have Americans trapped over in Mexico. They're stuck. They can't get out of the Guadalajara International Airport. They can't leave by the highways in Puerto Vallarta. There's many areas now that are under attack by criminal organizations. Would you look at that? Some SHTF activity that we've talked about in times past. Thank you, Mr. Uman. Great freaking picture. How do you stop someone from using your highway? Well, you put cars, vehicles, trash, drop trees across the roadway, and then you take the nearest tiny little backhoe. This is not a giant piece of construction equipment. It is an average piece of construction equipment. And what do? You tear up a road. That right there, what you're looking at, is about 10 minutes of work. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It's a nice looking highway for Mexico, don't you think? It's got some paint and asphalt. It's got some straight stuff. It's got some curbs and wow, way to go, Mexico. And they're going to tear that shit up. Uman says lots of important prepper lessons to be learned from what's going on in Mexico. If you are paying attention, right? Anywhere you are, no matter where you're at, do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense? If you're a tourist in Mexico, the answer is no to all of those things. No guaranteed food, no food storage, no water. You're not supposed to drink the water in Mexico anyways, right? You have travel clothing, right? Medicine, no. Do you have the ability to defend yourself and your family? No, you're fucked. But there's a lesson here. It could happen anytime. They could just push cars out on the road. They could burn them. Buses, whatever, and they could tear a road up quick. They could blow it up. They could tear it up with a tractor. You know, this takes one tractor and a couple of matches, and it's done. A little bit of gas, right? So people are trapped there. Americans are trapped there, and these trapped liberal Americans are demanding that Trump rescue them from Mexico because the cartel violence is escalating. But, you know, these liberals that are on vacation, they probably are the same liberals that don't care about children being raped by super rich Democrats or super rich Republicans. You know, it's quite interesting what's going on. But that's not all I have to say about this, right? Darcy T sent me some information earlier and asked some questions, and I kind of want to talk about what's going on in Mexico. So they went down to this cartel. The United States, I guess, military did. They've captured the leader and captured and killed his son. Whoops. So Darcy kind of asked the question. Let me go through this. She says, so now Mexican cartels are getting out of hand. Since they were kept in business by the powers that be, we must assume that there is a special reason for what is going on. Right? Special reason for this uprising. She says she guesses it has something to do with the North American region that Trump is putting together. His trade, right? His trade plan. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, right? She says maybe Trump is being forced to bring order to Mexico, and suddenly this North American region or North American trade union is going to take some shape, and the United States is going to adopt Mexico the way it wants to adopt parts of Canada. Well, I tell you what, I've got some thoughts on this. They took out the cartel leader, and they've taken out the cartel son. So that just leaves their lieutenants, if you will. There's no line of succession. Normally, the head guy, if he dies or is killed by their enemies, well, his son or sons take over, and the hierarchy stays in shape. It stays in place. Well, if they took out the father and the son, and this is not, I was my mistake. I have to correct this. It was not the Sinaloa cartel. This is the other big cartel. Man, if you could dig that name up, I would be grateful for that. It's like the new Kids on the Block cartel. Anyways, this particular cartel is now without upper leadership, and so it appears that the subordinates, the lower level guys, are trying to take control of their localized, shall we say, units. So there's several Mexican states that this cartel controls or controlled, and now they're scattered across all these states, and they have limited organization and limited control over the whole thing. So they're lashing out, and it's kind of a meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So if you think about a drug cartel that has lost its leadership, and the people of Mexico know it, the people of Mexico, well, they might get out of hand. They might go to the local cartel headquarters and overthrow them. So the local cartel headquarters say, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, and we're going to go out and fuck you people up. So it is the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. And El Mencho is El Munched Out. He's done. Okay, it's not as big as the Sinaloa or Los Zetas, but they do have military-grade equipment from the United States and Israel. That's right. That's right. My thought is twofold on the New Kids on the Block cartel. There's two things going on here. Either they've had the leadership destroyed so that it's broken up into smaller mini cartels that are not in a centralized control, but rather a smaller regional control. Either they're going to be easier for the U.S. military to go in and mop up each organizational hub, right? Instead of one giant organization, now it's 5 or 6 or 7 little ones. Easier to destroy, or could it be that these smaller cartel pieces are easier to control for drug running in Mexico by the CIA? You know, it's easier for the CIA to control Mexico if they're controlling small, disorganized cartel units, and also control, well, Mexican assets. There's a big push and a big fear right now that President Trump and the international globalist cartel, thank you, Uman, nice picture, that they want to take over Mexico's mining operations. Well, I think China would have something to say about that. China's not real happy with what's going on. China needs all that silver. Mexico supplies 25% of the world's silver. They're the single largest silver producing nation on the planet. The world cannot do without silver. And we've been talking about that from the perspective of military solar power technology, battery power, everything, right? Medical. Silver is needed in all industry, computers, AI, data centers, everything. Nuclear power plants got to have silver. And without Mexican silver, the world stops. We need Mexican silver. So is this a big enough event? If this is a fabricated, manufactured, bullshit, plastic banana, good time rock and roll false flag to give the United States of America the excuse to go down into Mexico and take over the mines and say, okay, Mexico, you can't even keep control of your own company from these drug cartels. Perhaps we'll just take control of these mines for you. And we'll process the silver into Doré bar, which is a largely or partially refined bar, and then fly the silver out in military helicopters or transports. It's quite possible, folks. We are right now in the middle of a currency war, a pharmaceutical medical war, a military war, monetary war, commodity and metal war, technological war, etc., etc., etc. Here we go. Mexico, number 1. China, number 2. Peru, number 3. And then you get down to Chile. They don't do too bad. Poland, believe it or not, big in the mining world. Russia, also a big silver producer. Bolivia is down in South America. They're a big silver producer. Australia, the U.S., tiny compared to the rest of the world. A tiny fraction the United States produces. And I don't want to leave out Kazakhstan. Everyone loves Kazakhstan. It's right up there with Kirplekistan. Anyways, woo! Thank you, Darcy, for bringing that up and talking about the trade union with Mexico and Canada. Very questionable what's going on and why. Is this also a distraction from the Epstein files? Well, I spent some time on X today, folks, and one of the main messages is we're not going to forget. Not going to forget. Haven't forgotten, aren't giving up on, not giving up on, never giving up on the Epstein files. Doesn't matter if we have a pandemic, doesn't matter if we have a war, doesn't matter if we have a civil war. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Ah, boy, I tell you. Thank you, Mr. Uman. Good stuff there. Good stuff. Get your questions down below, folks. I've got more things to talk about. And this is a pretty important one. Darcy also asked why the Epstein gang used Gmail for communications having to do with child rape, kidnapping, satanic sacrificing, hunting, child birthing factories, and of course cannibalism. And she says, just kind of a curious observation she has. I said, well, I tell you what, I have my opinion on why Epstein and everybody decided to use Gmail accounts. I think it's because the CIA and Mossad and MI6 were controlling them all and controlling Epstein. So the entire pedo network felt safe and protected from scrutiny and arrest because, well, the CIA, the FBI, Mossad, Interpol, MI6 were all on the same team to protect them. So they felt safe. They felt protected. And I think history has shown that protection for Epstein, it was real. They were doing the job they said. Right? They covered up Pizzagate. They covered up Comet Ping Pong. They covered all that up back in 10 years ago. So yeah, the CIA and Mossad are doing quite a bit to cover up and protect while we try to expose and push for justice. Remember, Google, YouTube, all of the high tech, all of big tech, all of social media, they scrubbed the entire internet of Pizzagate and all the pedo content regarding the elites from 2017 onwards. And so they must have continued to feel safe. Or they really are that fucking arrogant and believe they weren't ever going to be caught or held accountable. I believe that these idiots didn't consider that hackers could get to them. Or they're just really a bunch of sick, twisted, arrogant, megalomaniac fuckheads who underestimated foreign surveillance and hackers outside of the CIA Mossad network. Now, one of the ideas out there also is that Trump possibly and or some insiders are having to kiss Israel's ass, and kiss CIA ass, and kiss everybody's asses who are in power while leaking the information, websites, and directing people on how to unredact and expose these evil fucks in the Epstein files that came out. Right? Is that what's going on? And FBI and CIA and the Attorney General and Mossad and MI6 and Interpol all think that they were going to shut us up and we're going to go away. But perhaps there are some insiders who are releasing things, getting it out there. It's not going to solve our problems, though, folks. I think it's going to take a civilian revolt, literal citizen revolt, citizen arrest, and citizen justice, aka vigilantism. I think it's going to take vigilantism or a move, an independent of the U.S. government move by military. I think that military action to facilitate and make arrests is the only way we're going to get through this. And I'm not counting on that. I think the CIA and Mossad would oppose them and oppose a civilian vigilante justice system. I think they would oppose it and that there'd be a fight. But I don't think CIA or Interpol or MI6 or Mossad is prepared to fight that themselves. I think they would unleash terror cells on us that would make Puerto Vallarta and Mexico look like a walk in the park. But I think we got a lot of shit going on, folks. But for now, I'm going to turn the show over to you guys. It is your show. It is time for the Inner Circle. And we're back. Welcome, welcome, welcome one, welcome all. Mr. Uman, you have comments. So Diving Frog says, John, Russia and China are telling Trump not to go to war with Iran or they will back them. Back Iran. Bottom line is we're picking a fight for other shitheads that we can't win. In the end, we're destroyed. Well, I do not believe that Iran, without direct military support, meaning Chinese and Russian warships and submarines, Chinese and Russian military, Chinese and Russian hypersonic missiles, Chinese and Russian nukes, Chinese and Russian troops. That's the only way they're going to stop the U.S. from rolling up Iran. That's it. But regardless, I'm not blowing the America, fuck yeah, we're going to, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to give them the Durka, you guys have fucking had it. But I will say we would defeat them, sure. But not without destruction to naval vessels, quite possibly the loss of American military planes. If they send helicopters, landing craft, and American troops, be they Marines or soldiers or both, right? Whether it's Army and Navy, they go and we're going to lose. We're going to lose our men. Because of what? Because Israel says, and Israeli Susie Wiles, chief of staff, says we can win. At what cost? What do we get out of this as America? Oh, they're trying to develop a nuclear weapon, John, don't you know? Yeah, I've been hearing that literally since I was a boy in the 1980s. Literally, not joking. I have heard them say that. Israel is going to have a nuclear weapon in just a few months. They're only a few months away from having a nuclear weapon, which would mean the end of our civilization. America dropped 2 nuclear weapons. 1-2 on Nagasaki and Hiroshima at the end of World War II. If Iran were to get a nuclear weapon, guess what the first thing is they have to do? Drop it on Israel? No. Man, you know what the very first thing is they got to do? They got to test it. That means they're going to either test it under the ground, an underground test, which is still detectable, by the way. Oh, geez, all of a sudden a small area in Iran had a 7.0 earthquake. Oh, yeah, no, they know when they're doing underground testing, or they could do an above ground air blast, right? Or just a ground-based test. They need to test their bombs to make sure they work before they create more and then put them on missiles or cruise missiles and shoot them at their enemy. And they're not going to have enough to destroy the whole world, folks. No. But I do not believe they have nuclear weapons. Of course, I think they would like to. But if they really wanted them, and if Russia really felt they were necessary to have, don't you think Russia or China would supply them with nukes? To me, that would make the most sense. The same way Russia supplied Belarus with nukes. Now, they are owned and controlled, manned and operated and protected by Russian troops. Belarus is not a nuclear superpower. But if they felt it was a good idea for Iran to have it, they'd give them. Maybe they do. I don't know. But, right, when you say we can't win, Diving Frog, I think what you mean is, we can't win. We can't come away unscathed. And in the end, you said we're destroyed. And I don't think that he means, well, we could end up with nuclear apocalypse, destruction. It's possible. We could end up with limited nuclear destruction. Our military will definitely take a beating, and I would say thousands and tens of thousands of Americans will lose their lives, our military, over this. And is it worth it to try and appease Israel? Are the pedophile pictures and movies and letters and evidence and testimony that our enemies claim they have on Trump, is that why Trump wants to go through with this? Or is Trump going to chicken out? Trump going to chicken out? Taco. Is Trump going to back off? Is he going to be forced to back off? Remember, Putin just said, he's made many references to Nazis in Ukraine. He's made many references to this satanic child trafficking that took place in Ukraine and around the world. And the fact that the world, or the Western world, meaning Europe, Israel, the United States of America, Canada, Australia, are all run and led and controlled by parasitic, satanic, megalomaniac assholes. And he says their time is coming to an end. Is that what he's referring to? Is they'll nuke Tel Aviv, they'll nuke Brussels, they'll nuke London, Paris, and Stad. No, it would be Berlin. I just had to say Stad, as well as, well, what does it be? Quebec, Washington, D.C., maybe Los Angeles or San Francisco. Would they hit Melbourne or Sydney, Australia, just to teach them a lesson as well? We're going to find out, folks. I'm not excited about it. I'm not happy about it. I don't like being downwind from Pensacola. I don't like being downwind from whatever that one is down by Tampa. There's a Navy base down there, or I'm sorry, Air Force base. I don't like the idea of us being nuked, our people being nuked, our military being nuked. Is it that important? Is it that important for Russia and China to come to the aid of Iran if they're being bombed? What if one of our carriers, destroyers, what if some of our frigates are hit with these hypersonic missiles that aren't nuclear powered? What's going to happen, folks? Are you prepared? Mikey says, never underestimate your enemy, and that's very true. We have all the intel on these people. We know that the hypersonic missiles that are coming out of China and Russia are the equivalent of and superior to the American hypersonic missile technology. Our anti-missile shields and technology are pretty low. Now, Trump has claimed that he is in possession, or the U.S. military, Space Force, are in possession of technology that is light years ahead of anything anyone else is talking about. Do you believe that? I have not abandoned my intelligence and thinking. I don't believe anything any politician says, including Trump, after all the lying he's done. In fact, I want to bring this point up very quickly, very quickly. A video was put out today back when Trump was campaigning for office, talking about how he's going to arrest people and he's going to stop the crime and the corruption, no more wars. That Trump looks about 10 years younger than the current Trump. That Trump had nice golden hair. Today's Trump is fatter, older, unhealthy looking, and has gray hair. Did we get a Trump switcheroo? Do we have a Trump clone or a Trump doppelganger? Do we have someone else who's wearing a Trump mask and Trump hairpiece? Don't know. Could be. It's always possible. Thank you, Mikey G and Mr. Uman. And I see the studio there has a lot of guests. Nicely done. Uman says domestic enemies as well, a.k.a. our own government. Do not underestimate them is what Uman is saying. Don't underestimate our own government and what they're willing to do, what they're willing to allow. Don't underestimate their desire for their agenda to be the thing we have. Remember, governments love to create or introduce a problem, wait for people to freak out, get pissed off, and scream and yell for help, and then offer their solution. Their solution. Well, the U.S. Constitution created the government, we, the people, God, people, Constitution, and then that created the government. It's supposed to have all the solutions. Government is supposed to protect us while observing and protecting our rights and our way of life and our culture and traditions. Not use an emergency as an excuse to restrict our rights, to eliminate our privileges, to take down our safety, to make us feel unsafe and continue to feel unsafe, and then victimize the shit out of us until we give up and abandon all hope. That's what they want. You know, they're hoping and waiting and wanting you and me to give up on the Epstein files. I'm waiting for the vigilante justice system to take control. There are now people, and they are, well, or appear to be and sound like Republicans who have said, you know what, I've got a daughter, and I'm not playing this fucking game anymore. I'm going to have to take action myself since the government will not arrest the pedophiles. I'm not saying that. I'm not encouraging people to say that nor take action, but I will report to you what I'm hearing people saying. In fact, one of my site foremen was talking to me today, and he says, hey, look, me and my wife, we've got an 8-year-old daughter. He says, I will not let her walk into a bathroom alone. I will go in and call and see if anyone's in there. And if no one responds, I still go in the bathroom and check and do a stall check and just kind of look, make sure there's no legs, because I don't want my daughter going into a bathroom and being assaulted or raped or murdered and me not know about it and be there to protect her. He says, of course, if the wife is there, she does that. But he says, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to let my daughter be victimized by these people or these transgender fuckheads. Not doing it. All right, Mr. Uman, who's next? We got more coming out of the crowd, and it's Nancy Kegg. And she says, I guess we don't have any choice but to brave a new world, good or bad. And that is a very, very interesting thing to say, Nancy. Thank you so much. We don't have any choice. You see, we used to believe, you and I, all of us, and Nancy, at least I think Nancy believed that voting mattered, that voting helped you and me, us, determine what our brave new world is, or whether we're going to stick with our brave old world, which was, well, the bravery of living in a world with no guaranteed safety, no guaranteed security. Well, now government says, oh, no, we're going to guarantee your safety and security. We've got cops and police, and we're less safe than ever, aren't we? But back to Nancy. Brave new world, good or bad, meaning the system and the world and the government that we thought we had, they're gone. They're toast. They're shit. They're failing. Republicans won't do anything. Democrats only want to destroy faster. The president's a pile of shit, and the White House and the administration, the Epstein administration. Congress is full of fucking pedophiles, losers, liars, cheaters, and maybe even fucking murderers. The fucking courts are a fucking joke. Everything's a joke. It's obvious everyone is compromised by the Epstein files and money being thrown at them by Israel and AIPAC. Now, I'm going to give you a little taste of that. So yeah, it's going to have to either we get killed by it or we get rid of it. And as the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence suggests, we replace that government with a future government that will secure our rights and liberties for us and do its fucking job. So we get a good new world, the one I just described, where we get rid of this government and we start again with our brave new small little constitution that serves us. Or we give up and lose, or we get defeated and we get left with brave Epstein world and brave Muhammad world and brave cartel world. Not good worlds, folks. We don't have that choice. Voting didn't do it. Anyways, Nancy, we have a leaked text scandal out there. I want to kind of give you guys just a quick taste of how good our government is. The House Republicans are going to call up Representative Tony Gonzalez. They're saying, hey, you need to resign, buddy. All these motherfuckers need to resign. But they want Tony Gonzalez to resign because he has some messages that show he repeatedly requested one of his staffers to send him nude photos. And she allegedly died by lighting herself on fire. Really? When someone sexually harasses you, you commit suicide? When someone sexually harasses you, instead of telling your boss or going to human resources or going to your husband or going to the police and filing complaints, instead you put gasoline on yourself and light yourself on fire to kill yourself. That's how you commit suicide? Over sexual harassment? A congressman, Tony Gonzalez, piece of shit, asking for nude photos. How about she threatened to reveal his pedophilia and his association with Epstein-type criminals and crimes? We all know that the pedophiles are still out there. We all know there's other networks. We all know they're all fucking involved in it. We all know they're taking drugs, raping people. That they're trying to get that released now. Anyways, the few good people we have are trying to release all of the claims against congressmen and congresswomen for sexual harassment, rape, assault, etc. I don't believe this lady was Arkancided. This is not, I believe she was Arkancided, not dead by suicide. But that's who these people are. That's Washington, D.C. People dying, people being bribed and paid off, people being taken to pedophile sites like Zorro Ranch, Epstein's Little Island. How many others? How many others? How many others? All right, Mr. Uman, let's do another one. We got about 10 minutes left in the show, and we got Diving Frog saying, all I see anymore are corporations using our military to steal everybody else's resources to solidify their company's existence. You bet. That's all part of the program. That's what fascism is, my friends. Fascism is corporations donating money to politicians. And the politicians, in turn, give government contracts to the corporations. Right? They take care of each other and give each other power. They guarantee each other power. And these corporations are owned by who? Of course, there are shareholders. You, me, anyone could go invest in the military-industrial complex. You can get your little piece of the pie, folks. Go invest in McDonnell Douglas. Go invest in Pratt & Whitney. Go invest in Raytheon, go and invest in Bechtel, go and invest in, name your company, folks. But the people that own the corporations, the people that say, you know what, we're going to pay ourselves an extra bit of money, a couple extra $1 billion this year. But yeah, you send aircraft carriers and troop transport ships. You send frigates and submarines, and they get sunk. Oh, well, I guess we got to build new ones, don't we? You shoot off Tomahawk missiles, Hellfire missiles, Stingers. Got to replace those missiles. Oh, we bring attacks. Shoot up all those Patriot defense missiles. Got to replace those now. It's called war profiteering, folks. It used to be illegal. It used to be considered fucking immoral beyond belief. It's good to be patriotic and supply weapons and munitions to your country so you can win wars. But they weren't supposed to make a profit. They were supposed to hire Americans, use Americans' natural resources and commodities to build these weapons and ships, tanks and helicopters, guns, but they weren't supposed to make a profit, because profiteering from war would only encourage these corporations to call for war, ask for war, promote war, false flag for war. Pearl Harbor, anyone? Lusitania, anyone? The Maine, anyone? The Gulf of Tonkin, anyone? 9/11, anyone? 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 Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Uman. Let's see who's next on the Prepared Mind channel. We've got Robin checking in. She says, they take our resources too for their gain. They take our water. Oh, they're stealing water like a motherfucker to cool their artificial intelligence data centers. Energy, oil, gas, you bet. They will take that from us in a fucking heartbeat, the government will, to send it to war. We will suffer massive consequences because you always need to have national security first, they say. Let me put that up. I'll ask you that question. If the United States was at war with, say, China or Russia, wouldn't we as Americans be willing to pay higher prices for gas so we can send gas and fuel over to our ships, jets, tanks, helicopters, jeeps, etc.? Of course. But wait, if you can supply them with what they need and we're still getting everything we need, why does the price have to go up double, triple, quadruple? It's to help pay for stuff. Oh, okay. So yeah, we would be willing to do that, right? Well, we don't want to, but we'd be willing to do that to win a war for national security, because if we don't do that, we could lose and we would be destroyed by another country. But our national security right now in 2026 isn't being threatened by Iran. Iran's missiles can't touch us. They can't get to us. Russia and China are not threatening our country to nuke us. No. What is the biggest, single, greatest national security threat out there? The Epstein files. 1,000% the Epstein files. No, John. That's not a threat. Well, no, we were told. The president said, Pam Bondi said, Kash Patel has told us, if we arrested all of the Epstein file people, it would be a national security threat and the government would collapse. If you nuke San Francisco, the government wouldn't collapse. If they nuked Paris or Tel Aviv, the United States government wouldn't collapse. The military wouldn't collapse. If they nuked London, if they nuked Berlin or Stade, wouldn't happen. If they nuked Moscow, our government wouldn't collapse. The only thing that could collapse our government is dropping a nuke on Washington, D.C., or the Epstein nuke. And that's what they're afraid of, folks. They're afraid of the Epstein nuke. You bet. You bet. I've got some other story. I got to get this one out here. The racism of the left, the racism of the Israelis, the racism of communists, the racism of the Talmudic Jewish adherents is on display, folks. Bigger than ever. Read the Talmud. They hate everybody except Jews. But they use the blacks as muscle against the whites. And they use the whites to fight everyone else. And they get us all to fight each other, right? But get this. Finally, folks, an honest, woke, white, and appears to be Jewish New York City college professor was honest, spoke the truth, their truth. And this woke, white, and allegedly Jewish college professor shocked college students with a blatantly racist comment. Once again, hot mic. The comment was about black people, coming from a woke, liberal, communist, and allegedly Jewish college professor. The comment was about black people, and what she said resembled the words of a Klansman, right? Ku Klux Klansman. Well, this is what she said. Here's the quote. Speaking of black people, they're too dumb to know they're in a bad school. I guess that's the school she's in, right? They're too dumb. And she also said, if you train a black person well enough, they'll know how to use the back. You don't have to tell them anymore. Apparently, the students were listening to all this and were in complete and total shock. At the very least, this fucking college professor, this white, woke, dumb communist bitch, is a Democrat. And very likely an Israeli. They're doing a great job these days showing us exactly who they are. Same with Gavin Newsom. Remember that dumbass? Apparently he's getting a lot of backlash. Blacks are pissed off. He's claiming to be dyslexic and can't read, like blacks. So they should all get along just fine, right? Gavin Newsom's just like them. He can't read. He's stupid. What a racist fucking thing to say. What a racist thing to say. They're too stupid to know they're being used. They're too stupid to know they're in a bad school. They're too stupid to read. How's the Democrat Party doing, folks? This is liberal, communist, government elitism. That's the elitist mentality of the government, isn't it? That's how Washington, D.C. treats us. We're too fucking stupid. Oh, we notice that AIPAC in Israel is buying every single fucking politician down the line. Republicans, Democrats, all of them. And we notice, and we're anti-Semites. We notice, and they call us every name in the book. Tell us we're stupid. You people are too stupid to realize that this could bring down the entire American government. It's a national security crisis. The crisis is a national security crisis. But it's not about keeping the government afloat. It's about protecting the fucking people. We, the people, own this motherfucker. We, the people, own this country. The government doesn't own the country. We, the people, own the country. And the government is supposed to work for us. And they don't. Colleges are supposed to educate us. And they don't. The police are supposed to protect us. And they're not allowed to. The military is supposed to be in a position to protect us from a treasonous government. And we're not seeing any sign or indication that they're willing to do that job. And that's pretty disappointing. Now, let me just say this. If I were an E1 or a PFC or a Lance Corporal, would I, as a jarhead, would I go to my NCOs, my sergeants, my staff sergeants, and say, hey, this is bullshit? Would I go, hey, Gunny, why aren't we kicking these why aren't we going and arresting these fucking pedophiles? Why aren't we doing that, Gunny? I would probably, depending on the Gunny's politics, be told to shut up. Just fucking do as you're told, Marine. Right? Because E1s, E2s, and E3s, you don't get to know what's going on. Your job is to do, not ask. But what about the staff sergeants and the first sergeants, the master sergeants, and the fucking sergeant majors? Are they looking around going, why aren't we arresting these fucking pedophiles and these treasonous pedophile politicians? Why aren't we doing that? Well, if you're in Camp Pendleton, Fort Benning, even if you're in Camp Lejeune or Fort Bragg, you're not in Washington, D.C. What about the Marines at Quantico? Are they talking about arresting these fucking pedophiles and these treasonous Washington, D.C. politicians? I don't know if they are or not, folks. I don't know anyone in Quantico anymore. When are we gonna know? Well, the only time we're gonna know is when you and I and all of us are surprised because vigilante justice starts, or factions within the military take action and do their job. They, remember, swore oaths. I swore an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now it is my assertion that most politicians in Washington, D.C. are domestic enemies because they don't like the Constitution. They don't like the First Amendment. They don't like the Second Amendment. They don't like our rights. They don't like the restrictions that are placed upon them. They want to be the masters of the universe, not the servants of the people. We are in big fucking trouble, folks, and it's not getting any better. Not anytime soon, not fast. And I'm going to end the show on this. I know I'm going a little bit long, and I apologize. Accountability is something that I've been yelling for, screaming for, have I not? Accountability. If I break the law, I'm held accountable. You break the law, you're held accountable. Police, they break the law, they have qualified immunity. No, they should be held accountable. Any politician, state, local, federal, any of them, city councilmen, governors, senators, and congressmen, they should be arrested anytime they suggest we need to get rid of someone's rights or violate their rights or inject us with poison or poison our air or poison our fucking food. Anytime they pass a law that is in violation of the Constitution, common sense, or fucking decency, they should be held accountable. Well, I think we're starting to see a little bit of accountability. It's small. But didn't the Big Bang of the universe start with a very small thing? Accountability. The Florida Attorney General's office has arrested a convicted felon who was commuted, that is to say, pardoned by Biden and his auto pen. This criminal, this felon, now faces state charges for his drugs and weapons crimes. Great. Now Florida needs to arrest politicians on the Epstein list and charge them with rape, kidnapping, murder, and cannibalism. Step right up. Who's going to be the first state to enforce laws that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi refuse to enforce? If the state of Florida catches any of these Epstein people, there's evidence that shows they're participating in conversations. There's video and there is photographic evidence of them committing these fucking crimes. All of them are in bed together. Is the state going to do that? I would like to see some fucking accountability. I hope Florida's first. If I find out where they're at down here, folks, and I have people looking where these Epstein file people are, if they're in Florida, look out. But people are tracking them in every state. And I'll continue to say, find out their names, all of them. Put their crimes with those names and find out where they live. Because vigilante justice just may be the last resort. Don't commit any crimes, folks. Don't break the law. Don't do anything dangerous. Get ready, because chance favors the prepared mind. food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, your plan. I'll see you guys tomorrow.